Hello, folks, and welcome to the Aging and Spirituality podcast, where we talk about how getting older can free us to live a life that is more aligned with our soul, with nature, and have a more beautiful life. So I'm Chris Jensen, and this is
Kathy Taylor.
And we're so happy you're joining us.
Yes.
Today, we're going to talk about how do you react when difficult situations arise? Well, if you want to find out how to stay in tune with your inner self, and as a result, connected and allow your inner power and goodness and love to come through into the situation, then stay tuned today, because that's what we're going to talk about. We all have times in our life when the things get rough. I've had several times like this, and
recently, actually.
you know,
Recently, some nice challenges. Yeah.
And the interesting thing is, as I look back now, I can look back through the process of tuning into spirit and meditation and discover that how much I can see what progress I've made by the way I react in situations and am able to bring the best to whatever's happening.
Yeah, for sure.
I would tell you, a good friend of mine, his wife, she had serious illness when she was in her 20s, and after recovering, she made it her life's work to help people who had through the medical system. And the interesting thing she said is, when a problem happens, a serious illness or problem with a loved one, it brings out either the best or the worst.
The worst. Yes. Nurses know that.
Yeah. And so this podcast is all about how we can be part of the group that brings out the best, that brings their best to that situation. That's our goal here. We want to, whatever the situation, we want to bring our best. Well, during my years of practicing yoga, there are a few memorable events that were very trying for me. One was some years ago. It's probably closer to 28 years ago now. I went through a divorce. At the time I went through this ugly divorce, I needed to get a regular full-time job. I bought a new car. Someone ran into me the next day. My daughter had become a teenager. It was like all of life's major stresses were happening at once. Mm-hmm. And I remember initially feeling really out of sorts. And I had this conversation with Ramakrishnananda, who is our teacher at the yoga center, and he and I had just shared this with you recently. He said to me, he said, your perception is that your world is falling apart around you, and he said, actually, what's happening is your energy is involuting, it's rushing in to your soul. He said, so just let the other stuff fall apart. And so I walked out of there, and I felt really good about it, because I was very in touch with the part of me that was that spirit within. And then I fell apart later on. And so it took practice. It took a lot of practice of remembering that, getting back into the space that who I am is this consciousness within, not all the stuff that's happening around me.
Yeah.
And I just worked on that. And in my meditation practices, I worked on that. And after a while, there was just, I was okay. I could feel centered and whole and deal with everything in a very constructive way.
Right.
So that was that experience. Then later on, a couple of years ago, I had breast cancer, and that was a big deal. It wasn't bad. It was stage 1. It was early. It was, for the medical community, they consider it not much.
Yeah.
When someone tells you that, you hear that.
The big C is scary.
Yeah. And then you go in the next morning to see the breast surgeon who's telling you survival rates,
They're so dumb.
It's just, it's not like the most, calming thing on the planet. And so I had to walk out of there. They took my blood pressure, which is normally fine, it was like.
Then you told you the rates and it went right up to the roof.
It got to the roof. So, I had to walk out of there, and I sat in my car, and I remembered, wait a minute. this is just something that's happening. Who I am is this consciousness within, and I want to get to that centered place where I know everything is just the way it should be, where whatever I need will come to
Right.
me, that place of knowing. And I sat in the car and I did that for a little while, just right in my car until I felt pretty centered. And then went and met Kathy for lunch. So
That helped get a
which
good
is
laugh in.
it's a really good thing to do, to be with someone who is like-minded, who can, offer you
No,
some.
no doubt. But I have a question just listening to you say that. When I hear you say, okay, I'm not this situation, I am the consciousness within, then my mind, I'm guessing that there are some listeners' minds are going to say, but yeah, this shit's happening to me. This
This
is,
is happening. Well, there's
yeah,
no question that it's happening,
yes,
but that's not who I am. This
right,
stuff is
okay.
happening, and
What do I do?
I chanted, I did chants that I know. I did whatever meditation practices could get me most quickly back to center,
At
to
the center,
knowing who
okay,
I was.
okay,
And yeah, I mean, it wasn't like the stuff stopped happening.
right.
I still had to go through the surgery and the radiation and all the yada,
All of those
yada.
things you did.
Right. But I went through it from a different place.
So listeners, what she's saying is her focus, her awareness, her attention
Mm,
was on being centered in spirit, not on the drama of what the big C meant or could possibly mean in the future, or
right,
all the horrible things that could happen, blah, blah, blah,
right,
blah, blah.
right,
This is where you cross the bridge into, whether you're going to heal quickly and get through this quickly
right,
versus, end up the alligators biting your butt the whole way.
right,
Right?
right. That's exactly it. And
Yeah.
so you're going to deal with the situation, but how are you going to deal with it? What
Yes.
state of mind are you going to be in? Because
Right.
worry, I mean, usually worry is about fears about things that never really happen.
That's right.
We conjure up all these possibilities. And so for me, it was getting back to the place where whatever happened was going to be okay.
Right.
Feel that energy moving. And I
Yes.
did a lot of practices to get there. I didn't just,
Well,
happen in 2 seconds, but I did a lot of practices, and I'm going to share a couple of the ones in a little bit.
right. But there's a certain level of acceptance there that, right? I
Yeah.
mean, maybe you're going to talk about that, but go ahead. Yeah. I get
Yeah,
excited.
there is. I mean, here's the steps that I see to all of this.
Okay.
So a big situation comes up, you have the appropriate emotional reaction. It's appropriate to feel some angst or fear,
Yeah.
but then quickly you want to shift to, okay, this is the reality. This is what's happening. Now, what
Right.
am I going to do about it?
Right. How am I going to react?
That's the shift you want to make. And very often doing some breathing practices or some postures or, a meditation practice will help you make that shift from, okay, you've got to have the appropriate reaction. You're going to have an emotional reaction. That's fine.
Yeah.
But then you want to not stay there. You don't want to get
Right.
stuck. Some people just never get out of it. They get stuck there. So we want to get from there to, okay, this is what's happening. Accept it. Now, what am I going to do about it? Then you can do something, when you go. And then you take the appropriate, when you can get centered, you take the appropriate actions. And they're going to be more attuned. If they're attuned with spirit, they're going to be a whole lot better, more helpful, more constructive for everyone involved.
Right.
I mean, when I went through the radiation, I mean, I did so many practices beforehand. I was, like after
Floating by the time you got in there.
I was, yeah. Yeah. I mean, but that's what you do because you're dealing with reality, but you're dealing with it from a higher place within.
Definitely. You've completely let go of fear. You're not taking that with you at all.
Right.
You're centered in spirit. You stay in that consciousness of love, those higher energies as much
Right.
as you possibly can.
Yep.
And you just move through it in that state of being.
That's exactly right. You just move through it in that state of being. So you're still dealing with the situation, but when you're in that state of being, you're feeling whole and healthy, and you're more open to insights coming from your higher self to deal with the situation and appropriate action and to act out of love, uh, and those steps are very important. I think that shift, okay, you have the emotional reaction, but this is what's happening. Now, what am I going to do about it? And then there's these couple techniques that I think are very, very helpful to dealing with this. One, and the Navy's, this is a yoga pranayama breathing technique, but the Navy SEALs are actually taught this particular practice. When they get into a difficult situation and they don't know what to do, they're told to do this practice, this breathing
Like
practice.
a life-threatening situation, where
Yeah,
people
life-threatening situation where it's do or die, the kind of situations
Wow.
you might get into. And in fact, I saw this movie. There was a movie, it was just a comedy, but the woman was supposedly the Secretary of State, and they were in this difficult situation. She said to the other guy, okay, I'm going to show you what they teach the Navy SEAls. And
And it was that.
it was this.
Pranayama.
I had already known that, but and
Wow.
and yoga, we sometimes do this a little bit longer, but it's a very simple breathing practice. So we're going to do this for a few times together, and you'll like how you feel. So I'll tell you what it is first, and then we'll do a few. So you just inhale through the nose for a count of 4, retain your breath for 4, exhale for 4, and hold your breath out for 4. So let's do one together.
Through the nose the whole time?
In and out through the nose, only through the nose. And nice, slow. It's not 1, 2, 3, 4. It's like 1, 2, 3, 4. Nice slow count. And don't strain to hold your breath. If it's too long, you cut it down. But it's the even inhale, retain, exhale, hold out is very important. So let's do one of these together, and then let's do that. Then do like 4 more at your own rate here. We'll each do it at our own rate so that we're not going too fast or slow for each other. So let's do the first one. We inhale for 4, retain our breath for 4, exhale for 4, hold the breath out for 4. We'll do 4 more of those breaths. Now notice your mind.
Empty.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Talk about emptying.
Yeah, it's very simple thing to do, but it really works. So, when you're in the heat of the moment in a difficult situation, do this breathing technique.
Calming.
So calming. You don't have to do a lot. We just did 4 of them. You could do more if you want. You could do 5 or 6 or 7, but you don't need a whole bunch.
It occurs to me this would be a really good one for anger. People mostly do
Yeah.
not know how to handle their anger management, right? But
Yes,
you do that one and that'll calm you right down.
calm you right down. It's great stuff. It's great stuff. Anger, fear, anything. It's great. So that's the breathing technique that I think is so valuable. And then if you want to go a little further into a meditation technique, there's this one that I think is it's great for anything, but great at this point. At Yoga Center, we call it the Om Ishta practice. We just kind of made that name up. But what you do is you start out with your foot, you touch your foot, and you close your eyes and you mentally say Om. And you could say Om in the name of a great being like Buddha or Christ or anyone. And then you move up to your calf and you mentally say Om, or just Om in the name of a great being, and then you move through body parts.
Are you acknowledging your body parts as you touch them, or you just touch them and you're just saying the Ishta?
Bringing the awareness there to the body.
Okay.
Yeah. And then we go through each body part, and then we come back out of it. And it's just so centering. What it does, especially if you've been little challenge. It just brings that
I
energy.
don't remember this one. This will be fun.
Yeah. So we can do this now. We're going to go through body parts, and you can go through more body parts than I'm going through when you're on your own, but I'm going to just go through the main ones. So sit comfortable. You can close your eyes, and you can begin by touching a foot and saying Om, or the name of a great being, Om, Buddha, Om, Christ, Om, Rama, Krishna, whatever. But I'm going to just say Om as we go through. And then moving from your foot, your left foot, to your calf. Om. Just bringing that energy in there. Thigh. Om. Your hip. Om. And now the right foot. The right calf. The right thigh. And the right hip. Your abdomen. Your chest. Your back. Your left hand. Your forearm. Upper arm. And shoulder. Now the right hand. Forearm. Upper arm. Shoulder. Your neck. Your face. Your whole head. And just enjoy that for a moment or two. And now we're going to inhale and tense our body in a wave. And exhale, relax. One more time. Inhale, tense. And relax.
Oh, that feels so healing.
It's very healing. It's just so
Oh,
healing.
yeah.
If there's a great being you feel some affinity for, it's really more powerful to say Om in the name of that being. But just saying Om is fine. I mean, you're just bringing that awareness and that energy and light into your whole being. And before you know it, you're just completely centered.
And completely full of light, like really peaceful.
Yeah.
That's beautiful.
Yeah.
Thank you. I enjoyed that. I don't think I've done that, or I don't remember it, that's for sure.
So this is really one I think you should really work with, because we all have challenging times and they keep coming up, and the better you get at dealing with them, maybe the less you have to deal with.
Yeah, exactly.
So
right? That's the point. That's the point, is to learn how to respond appropriately.
Yeah. So I hope you're having fun with this, and now you know what the Navy SEALs do when they're
and whenever you get pissed off next time, you know exactly what you have to do.
So have fun with this, and send us any questions. I kind of want to leave you a little peaceful. I don't want to talk too much now, because I think you're feeling, if you did these practices with us, you're probably feeling pretty peaceful. So enjoy it and let us know if you have any questions, and we'd love to hear if it works for you.
You bet. Thanks for coming, everyone. See you again next week.
Bye.
Take care.